Leonardo da Vinci often said that inaction is fatal to genius, yet his own life was surrounded by people who were his complete opposite. How did it happen that next to the wisest man of the era for 30 years lived a youth whom the master openly described as a thief, a liar, stubborn, and a glutton? And why, after Leonardo's death, was one student entrusted with secret knowledge and manuscripts, while the other received fabulous wealth only to meet a death sentence from an unknown assassin? In this episode, we follow the trail of Salai and Melzi, two heirs without whom the world would never have known the true Leonardo.
It really does sound like the plot of a thriller, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You've got the genius, the chaotic sidekick, and the loyal son.
But this isn't fiction. This is all from wills and diaries. I mean, we're digging into the real life of the Renaissance's greatest mind. It's fascinating.
It is, because we have this image of Leonardo, right? The solitary wizard in his workshop.
Totally. Just thinking these big thoughts all alone.
But when you look at the documents, you realize his life was this constant tug of war between two people, two completely different relationships.
It's the ultimate odd couple of the Renaissance. You've got Salai, who he called the little devil, and then Francesco Melzi, the perfect intellectual son.
And that's our mission today. We want to figure out why he needed both. Because one inherited the art and the money, and the other inherited, well, the mind and all the work that came with it.
It's a total split, isn't it? The material versus the intellectual.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's start with the chaos agent. Gian Giacomo Caproti, better known as Salai.
The little devil.
He walks into Leonardo's studio in Milan in 1490. He's, 10 years old? And reading Leonardo's own notebooks, it sounds like the master regretted it almost immediately.
Well, regret is putting it mildly. Leonardo literally makes a list of the boy's traits in his notebook. It reads like a diagnosis. He writes, ladro, bugiardo, ostinato, iotto.
Which means
thief, liar, stubborn, and glutton.
Wow. That is not a glowing performance review for your new apprentice.
No. And he wasn't exaggerating about the thief part. I mean, Leonardo kept these meticulous financial records, so we literally have the receipts on this kid.
Oh, this is good.
There's this one famous story. Leonardo, trying to be a good father figure, takes young Salai to buy him a new outfit. A tunic, breeches, make him look presentable.
A nice gesture. Dress for success.
You'd think. But while they're at the shop, Salai steals the change from Leonardo's purse before he can even pay the merchant.
He stole from the guy who was literally buying him clothes. That takes some nerve.
It was compulsive. And it wasn't just cash. There are notes about him stealing silver point drawings from the studio, taking money from other pupils.
Okay, and for anyone who doesn't know, stealing a silver point drawing isn't like, grabbing a pen from the supply closet. This was serious.
Oh, absolutely. It's a stylus made of actual silver on specially prepared paper. It's expensive stuff. He was basically sabotaging the studio's work. He sounds like a total nightmare.
He does. And this is the million-dollar question, right? Why keep him?
Exactly.
Salai stayed with him for nearly 30 years. He followed him from Milan to Rome to France. Why would you put up with that?
Well, that's the paradox. Part of it was, probably a paternal thing. Leonardo had no kids. But there was also an artistic fascination. Salai wasn't just a pest. He was a muse.
A muse?
Yes. He had this specific angelic look. Leonardo even writes about his curled, waving hair. And that look, that face, it became the blueprint for Leonardo's entire aesthetic.
I can picture that face, that classic Leonardo look.
That's the one. When you look at paintings like St. John the Baptist, that figure with the curls and that mysterious little smile, that is almost certainly Salai.
So he's the thief and liar, but he's also the face of an angel.
Precisely. It was this relationship that constantly tested Leonardo's patience, but it also brought this spark of life, of chaos, into his world. He forgave him everything.
It really does sound like that problem child that you just can't help but love.
I think so. But then on the complete other end of the spectrum, you have the good son.
Right. Let's bring in Francesco Melzi.
The contrast is it's night and day. Melzi shows up around 1506. He wasn't some street kid. He was a Milanese nobleman, Count Francesco Melzi.
So a completely different world.
Totally. He was educated, he was cultured, calm, and just incredibly devoted. While Salai was off causing trouble, Melzi was sitting at the master's side, acting as his secretary, absorbing everything. The science, the philosophy.
And the emotional bond there feels so different. I was reading that letter Melzi wrote after Leonardo died. It's incredibly moving. It's not chaotic. It's just pure reverence.
It's heartbreaking. He wrote to Leonardo's brothers, and he called the master Optimo Padre.
The best of fathers.
Yes. And he wrote that his grief would last until the day he died. He was the guardian of the wisdom. If Salai was the muse for the art, Melzi was the heir to the mind.
Which brings us right to the will. The year is 1518. Leonardo is in France, living under the protection of the king, and he knows the end is near.
And this document, his last will and testament, it makes this whole division official. It lays out exactly who gets what.
Okay, so let's start with Melzi, the good son. What did he inherit?
Melzi got all the tools of the trade, some paintings, but the most important thing he received was the books, the manuscripts, all the notebooks.
Now, when we hear books, you might picture a nice, tidy library.
Right, if only. No, what Melzi inherited was an absolute nightmare.
The famous chaos of Leonardo's mind.
Exactly. We're talking about thousands upon thousands of loose pages, a sketch of a gear next to a grocery list, next to an anatomical drawing. And on top of all that, it was all written in Manuscript.
Which is exactly what it sounds like.
It's written backwards.
Yeah.
From right to left. You have to hold it up to a mirror to even read it.
So Melzi didn't just get an inheritance, he got a homework assignment for life.
A burden, really. He had to haul all these crates back to his villa, and he spent the rest of his life trying to organize them. The famous treatise on painting that art students still read. That only exists because Melzi painstakingly compiled it from all those scattered notes.
Wow. Without him, we would have lost Leonardo the scientist. We'd just have the painter.
We absolutely would have.
All right, so Melzi gets the brain, he gets the mirror script and the massive project. What about Salai, the thief and glutton? Did Leonardo cut him out?
Not at all. And this is where you see Leonardo's affection again. Salai didn't get the books. He got the land.
The land.
Specifically, a vineyard in Milan.
Wait, hold on a second. Leonardo da Vinci had a vineyard. I'm picturing him stomping grapes now.
It's a great little backstory. The vineyard was a gift from Ludovico Sforza, the Duke of Milan, way back in 1498. It was his bonus for painting The Last Supper.
Not a bad bonus. Thanks for the masterpiece. Here's some real estate.
It was a huge deal. A piece of the earth that was his. And in the will, he split that vineyard right down the middle between Salai and his other servant, Battista di Viani.
So Salai becomes a landowner.
He does. And we know he'd already built a house on it, which tells you everything about his priorities. He didn't want the intellectual burden. He wanted wealth. He wanted stability.
It's that perfect split again, the intellectual versus the material. But this is where the story gets really wild. We have to talk about the actual paintings.
Ah, yes. The masterpieces.
The Mona Lisa.
St. Anne. John the Baptist. You just assume that since Leonardo died in France, in the king's castle, the paintings just stayed there.
That's what makes sense, right. But the historical records, the inventories, they tell a completely different story.
Okay, so what did they find?
After Leonardo died, Salai didn't stick around in France. He went back to Milan, to his house on that vineyard. He died just a few years later, and his sisters were described as being pretty greedy. They rushed in and made a detailed list of everything he owned.
And on that list?
A list of paintings, including one titled La Gioconda.
No, the Mona Lisa.
The Mona Lisa, along with others that matched the descriptions of St. Anne and John the Baptist.
Hold on. So, for a while, the most famous painting in the world was just sitting in the house of the little devil in Milan.
It seems so. The theory is that Salai brought them back from France with him. Maybe Leonardo gave them to him like a retirement plan. Or maybe Salai just took them.
That's incredible. He ended up with the things that could actually be sold. And he likely did sell them. Or at least he became incredibly wealthy. The inventory of his estate showed a fortune. The idea is he either sold the originals back to the King of France for a massive sum, or he was making and selling brilliant copies. Either way, he held the keys to the kingdom.
The kid who stole pocket change for new pants ended up holding the Mona Lisa.
It seems Leonardo wanted to make sure he was taken care of. Melzi had his own family money. Salai had nothing. Maybe this was Leonardo's final act of paternal care. Here, these will make you rich.
And they did. But that's not where the story ends, is it? It gets pretty tragic for Salai.
It's a very dark ending. Melzi, true to form, lived a long, quiet, respectable life, guarding those manuscripts. But Salai...
He died violently.
Yes. In 1524, just 5 years after Leonardo's death, Salai was murdered in Milan.
What happened?
The documents are a bit vague, but they mention a shot from a weapon, probably an early firearm. He was killed in his own garden, on the vineyard Leonardo left him.
Any idea who did it? Or why?
It's one of history's great cold cases. A robbery gone wrong. A jealous dispute. We just don't know. The little devil who survived everything was just gone.
And his sisters were right there with the inventory list?
History can be cruel. Salai is remembered as the thief, the victim. Melzi is remembered as the faithful guardian.
But listening to all this, it's so clear that Leonardo needed them both. This wasn't an accident.
That's the key takeaway, I think. Salai brought beauty, chaos, and raw humanity into the studio. He was the spark. Melzi was the quiet, steady hand that collected the embers and preserved the fire.
The universal man needed balance. You can't just be a brain in a jar.
Exactly. Without Melzi, we'd have lost Leonardo the scientist. His notes would have been scattered to the winds.
And without Salai.
We might not have the Mona Lisa as we know her, not just because he may have physically saved the painting, but because his face was the inspiration for that mysterious beauty that defines Leonardo's late work.
So it wasn't one genius, it was a trinity. The master, the muse, and the guardian.
That's a perfect way to put it.
It just makes you wonder, doesn't it? We put these geniuses on a pedestal all by themselves, but maybe even the greatest of them all needed a team. He needed someone to organize his thoughts and someone else to just be beautifully chaotic.
That's a great question. Do we have that balance in our own lives? People who ground us and people who challenge us. Leonardo knew he needed both.
Even when one of them was stealing his art supplies.
Even then.
Well, that is definitely something to think about the next time you're looking at one of his paintings. There's a little bit of a little devil staring back at you.
There absolutely is.
If you enjoyed following this story with us, make sure you hit that subscribe button and like the show. It really helps us dig up more of these hidden histories for you.
There's always more to find.
Until next time, keep looking closer. You never know what you'll find in an old will or an inventory list. Thanks for listening.
Leonardo studied the human body as if he were trying to decode the very secret of life itself. But was he a humanist seeking beauty or a cold engineer dissecting a machine? In my latest video podcast on Patreon, we go beyond the paintings to explore the shadow side of Leonardo da Vinci. We'll dive into his chilling anatomical dissections, his brutal war machines, and the detached, almost mechanical way he viewed the world and the people in it. I'll also be showing his most explicit anatomical sketches that are too bold for open platforms. If you want to see what Da Vinci was truly searching for in human nature, the link is in the pinned comment. I'll see you there.